Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah, and I am a nutrition educator with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Jefferson County. And I'm here with my friend Heba. We're going to be hanging out, cooking some muffins, talking a little bit about parenting and getting your kids involved in the kitchen. I'll let Heba go ahead and introduce herself.
Yes, thank you, Hannah. Hello, my name is Heba. I work for Family Advocacy Program for Drum, located at 10250 4th Armored Division. And I'm so excited today to learn from the expert how to eat healthy and how to make healthy snacks.
Awesome. Well, I am so excited to share this recipe with you. I don't know if you saw in advance, but I'm going to be showing, it's called morning muffins. And I'm sure you can probably weigh in on this because I know a lot of folks, especially now, are having a hard time keeping their morning routine. So this is a nice way to get a good breakfast in there. So maybe I can start showing you the first couple steps and you can kind of talk about how you are dealing with morning routines.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So the great thing about these is they have some veggies in them to start the day. It's going to be
Nice.
a half cup of carrots.
Ooh. Yeah, carrots cake is my favorite. I love carrots.
Think of these as carrot cake muffins.
Yeah.
So I have 2 medium-sized carrots. I already scrubbed them really well and I cut off the tops and the bottoms. If you have kids, like they might be into scrubbing them, washing them real good. Or depending on the age, you could have them do this next step, which is going to be grating. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think all parents should say, or I shouldn't say should, but parents may be a good way to include kids in preparing meals. We need to take in consideration kids' age and also comfort level of both kids and parents. For example, I have a 10 years old daughter who's still kind of a little bit hesitant around using a real knife. So we're still using plastic knives and it's working well for her. My older son, he uses real knives with supervision and he like cutting knife and he's good with it. So comfort level could be different from one child to another. That's why parents' role is important in deciding what their kids are comfortable with or not yet.
that's such a good point because I know, especially like thinking of the grater, like this is kind of an intimidating one. You know, you're moving your hands really fast. This can be a little bit, I'm sure we've all kind of nicked our fingers. So that's
yeah.
What age were your kids when they started using knives? Do you remember?
Plastic knives probably as early as 6 years. And I told you my daughter is 10 and she still uses plastic knife till now. Sometimes harder things that she needs to cut, I would be with her or her dad would be with her just to make sure she's comfortable in cutting.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And that's great that your kids are involved in the kitchen. I know you probably know this since your kids are helping out so much, but a lot of the research has shown that when you have your kids in the kitchen preparing, or I'll angle you up, preparing new foods, they're more likely to actually try those foods. So if you're teaching kids how to prepare carrots, they might eat them more.
Yeah, and parents again can start as early as 3 years. Even if they have a couple veggies or a couple, I don't know, even some flour and water and ask their kids to help. That's a great idea to keep kids occupied, make them learn a new stuff, and also, as you said, research show that they will be more excited to try new food.
Yeah, definitely. So I have about a half cup of carrots, which is all I need for this recipe. So it was, I didn't need this extra one, so this will just be my snacking carrot. And then I've got another little nub that I can snack on, or if you have kids cooking with you, they can snack on too.
Nice.
So we can go ahead and add this to the bowl that we're going to be mixing everything in.
Okay.
We've got our half cup of carrots here. And to this, I'm going to be adding in 1 cup of low-fat milk.
Okay.
If you don't drink cow's milk, you could use almond milk, soy milk, any of those things. You just want to make sure that if you're choosing one of those plant-based milks, you're choosing one that doesn't have sugar in it. Because a lot,
Okay.
if you've seen those, they can have a lot of added sugar. So you want to make sure that you're reading the nutrition facts label. And then I'm going to add in an egg. So maybe pouring the milk into a measuring cup might be kind of hard for your child because milk jugs are pretty heavy. But if you pour it in and then they can pour this into the bowl, that's a great way to kind of get them involved. And it might seem like an extra step for you. I know sometimes you can cook faster if your kids aren't with you, but it really does pay off to have them involved.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The family experience is way more valuable than just the individual experience cooking for yourself. I think it's more fun. Yes, could be a little bit more messy, but it's definitely worth it to get your kids involved. A great bonding experience, I think, for kids.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, it is going to be messy, but that's half the fun. Then you teach them how to do the cleanup. All right, so I just whisked an egg in there. Now I'm going to measure out 2 tablespoons of oil. So again, this is too heavy for your kids if you have younger kids for them to hold, but you can have them count with you. So maybe you go, whoops. So 1, 2.
Good idea.
Especially if you have kids who are just kind of learning numbers and things like that. Cooking is a lot about knowing your numbers and knowing proportions.
Yeah, measurements. You're right.
And here's 1/3 cup of sugar.
Okay.
And a tablespoon of vanilla extract. Oh, sorry, excuse me, a teaspoon of vanilla extract.
I always heard if you're baking, it's better to use brown sugar. Is that a myth or that's accurate?
That's a really good question. I think it depends. So brown sugar is basically just white sugar that has some molasses mixed in. So if you've ever seen molasses at the store, that comes in the jugs and it's kind of like a syrupy brown liquid.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So that's how they make brown sugar. And so it can bring a lot of extra flavor to whatever dish you're making. And it can also make it a little more moist, which, or maybe you want something that's not super moist and you want your cake to really rise and not have that extra liquid.
Okay.
In this recipe, if you have brown sugar, you could switch it in. For sure.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Good question. So I'm going to add some walnuts to mine, get some heart-healthy fats in there. If you have almonds or pistachios, like what kind of nuts do your kids like?
I love walnuts. Almonds are great too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never tried anything else. I stick to those 2, to be honest. I don't know if you can use peanuts in cooking. I don't know.
I think you could with this one. It might be a little bit overpowering. Like, it's just have like such a distinct taste.
Yeah.
But I actually think these muffins are really good once they're done if you put peanut butter on them. So that might be both. Perfect breakfast. Yes. So I'm going to crush up these walnuts. This is something your kids could do too. You just put 1/2 cup in a bag, and then I'll show you. I'm going to crush them with a rolling pin.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah, so what are some breakfasts that you and your family eat?
Honestly, school time. I don't want to say we're always running late, but it's like I'm not going to lie, it's either a granola bar, or if we have extra couple minutes, we would do hot chocolate or hot cocoa for breakfast. If I'm ready to go and early, then I feel like I do have extra 10 or 15 minutes, I would do grilled cheese sandwiches. But regularly it would be either a granola bar or a cereal bowl. Yeah,
Well, that's good. That's great that your kids are getting breakfast because they have so many studies that also show when your kids get breakfast, they perform better in school, they have better focus. And one of the key things to a healthy, complete breakfast for your kids is a whole grain, which they would be getting
Okay.
granola bars. So I'm going to go ahead and add these crushed walnuts into here.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and mix it up lightly.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of baking recipes, you've probably noticed that you do one bowl with wet ingredients and
Oh yeah.
bowl with our dry ingredients.
I think, yeah, it makes the job easier to separate them that way.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I know when I was growing up, my mom would always she would work on the wet ingredients and she would put me in charge of the dry ingredients. And that
Yeah, that's a good idea.
learn to read recipes and like have a little bit more responsibility in the meal.
Yeah.
All right, so I have then 2 types of flour that are gonna go in here. I've got some white all-purpose flour, and I've already
Okay.
it was 3/4 of a cup. You could also, if you want your kids to have another thing to do, you could measure it out for them and then have them measure from a smaller container. That way you don't have to worry about your bag of flour spilling over and being even messier.
Yeah, that's a good trick.
End up just dumping it all in. And then I've got the same amount, 3/4 of a cup of whole wheat flour.
Okay.
Which is great because the whole wheat flour has bran, so it's got the fiber in it, and it's got a lot of vitamins and minerals that aren't going to be in the all-purpose flour. Dump it all in. So that will help keep everyone full for the day and everything. The other whole grain we have in here is going to be a 1/2 cup of oatmeal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is great. You always have oatmeal in your house, right?
Yeah.
So whatever kind of oatmeal you have works, if it's old-fashioned, instant, quick cooking, rolled. I'm trying to remember all the different kinds they have.
Yeah. Someone told me that the quick oatmeal is kind of like junk food. I don't know if that is true, but I stopped buying it and I stick now to the old-fashioned oatmeal.
Oh, like, were they talking about when you get it in like the little packets?
Yes, the envelopes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it really depends. You really have to read the label on those because a lot of them do have way more sugar than you would expect. And what was kind of surprising to me is a lot of them have a lot of sodium in them too.
Oh yeah, even though they're not salty at all.
Exactly. So I never thought that they were until I was looking at one and trying to see how much sugar was in it, and it had a lot of sodium. And yeah, didn't taste salty at all. But yeah, your friend who told you that might be kind of right.
Yeah.
Mixing this all up, I'm gonna add some cinnamon into it.
Okay.
I'm gonna add 1.5 teaspoons. So another thing you could do with older kids who are practicing maybe fractions at school is them. So say I'm going to want 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon in here. Instead of giving them a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon and a 1/2 teaspoon measuring spoon, you can just give them 1 and have them figure out how many of these you would need. So doing the conversion to 3/2 teaspoons equals 1.5 teaspoons.
Yeah, so they're helping and they're also learning math. That's a good idea.
Yeah. And I feel like it's a delicious way to learn math because then you get some tasty treats coming out of it.
Oh yeah, totally agree.
So then I'm going to add in a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Let me just wipe off this one real quick.
Okay.
So Heba, now that you've been kind of home with your kids and stuff, how has your morning routine changed?
Well, we're not rushing anymore to leave the house on time, so that's a good thing. not only breakfast, but in general, I think routines are a great way to send that message that kids can expect when food is coming and when it's time for meals or even snacks.
Mm,
We can, yeah, we can start as early as 2 years up to youth. Um, by having a routine, a meal routine, the kids will expect the meal, but then also they'll do the steps they need to do just to get ready to eat. I can put it in 3 steps, starting with washing hands, getting clean when it's mealtime. Obviously, if you have a 2 years old, 3 years old, you have to do it for them or help them with it. Older kids, you can just tell them it's time to wash your hands because we're getting ready to have a meal. Second step is to practice being safe. Whether you have a toddler or you have, again, an older child, make sure when they're safe around the kitchen or safe around the stove or the oven, safe using, again, knives or any other tools in the kitchen if they're helping. And I think the third one and the most important one is focus. And by focus, we mean limit TV time, screen time. Um, I get it now with the quarantine and staying at home. There's not much to talk about when it's dinner time or any other meal time because we're together, too much togetherness. But I really think it's a great way to have your meal without TV. It could be hard. I'm not going to say, especially the first few days or weeks. But I think mealtime is a great way or a great time to start a conversation with your kids. It could be about online schooling, or could be about plans when we go back after quarantine, or any other stuff.
that's great. I love that you have it kind of broken out into those 3 steps. So your kids like always know what to expect. They always feel like safe. They know what's coming, and their
And
things are good for them.
honestly, this is not me. This is like research study that what it shows by concluding the routine with those 3 steps is a great way in child's learning process. And I just have to conclude with a tip.
Yeah.
Never force your kids to eat their veggies, because that will, when they grow up, they will stop eating veggies for good. So I'm sure there's alternative ways, maybe include them in preparing or in cooking, and instead of enforcing veggies on them or any other food they don't want to eat or they don't want to try.
Yeah, I know there's been so many studies that have shown what you just mentioned. And then anecdotally, I've seen it in my own like friends and family that I know, that if they were forced to eat these vegetables growing up when they're older, they don't want to try them and things. So yeah, I think also you might know the exact number, but it takes like 12 tries for kids to know whether or not they like a food. Is that right?
Yes, and I think there is a second part to this that I'm not really a believer in it, but I think I've seen it with my kids.
Mm.
That taste buds change, but with time. Like certain things my daughter used to love fresh tomatoes. She eats them but like this. Right now, we are on a phase, I don't want tomatoes in my sandwich. I don't want tomatoes in anything, even in salad. So like I think the taste bud thingy changing is real.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of families how frustrating that can be, especially when you have a toddler and you're trying to figure out something that they will eat, and then you find something they love, and so you give it to them, and then 2 weeks later they get like the food jags, and they're just over it. So really normal, but frustrating.
Yeah.
I heard that. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and combine these two.
Okay, good.
But I was going to say, I've heard from just research studies and folks I've talked with that one way that they can get their kids to eat more vegetables or try new foods is to prepare them different ways. So,
Oh,
you know how, like, I don't always really like the texture of like really like soft foods, but I
okay.
crunchy foods. And so sometimes like kids are the same way, like maybe they like something fresh but they don't like it cooked, or they like something like they might like carrots and muffins but not carrots on their own.
Okay, yeah. Makes sense.
Be a little bit adventurous. And
That's a really good idea. So I have to keep in mind next time my kids refuse to taste something, to try something, maybe we change the way of presenting it to them.
yeah, like smiley face pancakes.
Oh, that should be delicious regardless.
I know. Yeah, put some fresh fruit on anything and I'm in. But if
Oh
you,
yeah, make faces. Oh yeah, definitely.
good alternative to maple syrup.
Yeah.
All right, so now I've got this pretty well combined. I want to make sure I'm not over mixing it because that can make it a little bit tough. But I just want to make sure
Okay.
no like wet patches of flour. And so again, the mixing is something that you can have your kids do if you're worried about them over mixing it. Maybe set a timer and say, you know, mix this in 1 minute or mix it for 10 circles. And then you'll kind of get it so that they know that there's a stopping point.
That's a great idea.
Mixing is so much fun. Sometimes you just want to keep doing it forever. Okay, so I have my muffin tin right here, and I already greased it a little bit, but I wanted to show you how you can do it if you don't have the cooking spray.
Okay.
People can be out of it. So I just put a little bit of canola oil. This is just a paper towel. And then I just ran it through all of these. And this is something your kid could do as well. Maybe you just go along after them and kind of see if there's any spots that look like they missed them. The other thing about these is you want to make sure you kind of go on the surface here because they might overflow a little bit. So just so it makes it up easier. It's no problem if, you know, a little bit sticks. It just makes your life easier. Right, and then I'm going to fill them about 2/3 of the way full. Like this.
That's a good idea. You're using a measuring cup to put. Yeah, it's better than using a spoon because then it's all over your counter space.
Yeah, I find it a little bit easier.
I will definitely use this trick next time I'm making muffins.
Oh, good. Yeah, it took me a long time to learn it. I definitely have been using a spoon for a lot of my life.
Yeah, I've never thought of it. Good idea.
Yeah. So this can be one, the measuring cup does make it a little bit easier. So if you have like an older kid or a kid who you feel like this would be a good fit for, because as you mentioned at the beginning, it's not really one size fits all. You know, different kids move at different stages. And so you might have a young kid who can be cutting with knives or doing a little bit more complex tasks, or they might not be comfortable with it yet. And we don't want to give them anything that is too scary because we want them to enjoy being in the kitchen.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But one way you could get them involved with this if they're not doing the measuring is say, why don't you look at these and tell me which one needs more batter?
Oh.
All level. Have them let you know if you're missing a spot or something like that.
Oh yeah, good idea.
And I think this is the last one.
Nice.
And I know it's really tempting, but there is raw eggs in this batter. So you don't want to be licking it or letting your kids lick it. Because raw eggs have the risk of salmonella, and no one wants food poisoning.
Yeah. Growing up, I never got it, but I always used to lick the chocolate spatula. And when my mom made a chocolate cake,
Yeah.
and looking back at it, I wonder how I did not get sick. Or maybe I got sick, but I don't remember. I have to check with my mom.
I know, maybe it was something else and it just got blamed on the flu or.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I got my muffins here. They're gonna go into the oven at 400 degrees for 15 minutes. So pretty.
Okay.
You can go ahead and pull them out when you stick, if you have a toothpick or a butter knife could do in a pinch, you want to be able to poke it in and have it come out without any crumbs on it. And the tops will look a little bit golden too.
Okay.
These also freeze really well after you bake them. If you wrap them up and put them in the freezer, and then on those hectic mornings, just throw them in the toaster oven or your microwave.
Yeah, good idea.